So let's talk about history. They say that history is written by the winners, by the conquerors. What that means is that history is written by the conquerors. You're all like, duh, I want my money back. I mean, obviously, but have we looked really deeply into what that means? That means that, I mean, look at the full page of history, at least 100,000 years of human beings. And in this last little sliver of it, we have had conquering nations, people who have come in and taken over other communities in massive ways. I mean, gosh, go to history in school. Like, right? What do you learn? Genghis Khan, uh, the Romans. So it's like once people learned how to trick people into joining armies and marching off and conquering other people, the stories that we know started being written by those people. So there's stories of conquering. And the very stories require a certain division of brain. You would never march out and conquer another person that you really see as that you're in relationship with, that they're the same as you. In order to be able to conquer other people, we had to be convinced of the other. And we had to be convinced of the other in way more deep ways than just that people are the other. We had to see that land itself was the other. And in order to be able to do that, we had to divide the world into all sorts of separate things. Like we were talking about last week, this has so much to do with language, because our language then built up around this conquering culture. So the way we can look at it now is, yes, there's a lot of indigenous people, native people, and they are stepping forward and starting to bring us a certain amount of knowledge. The rest of us are part of this history of conquering cultures. So everything about us is about this division. So this is important to understand about non-duality, because non-duality comes from a conquered society. When Enlightenment traditions like Buddha, if you look back at the story of Buddha, he lived in a very divided society. And that was the thing that like blew his mind when he saw it for the first time. He was living in luxury. And for the very first time, he goes out and sees how other people are living. And he's like, wait a minute. How can this be? And then he realized that his whole consciousness was full of this division of things. And it took some really stringent practices for him to jump out of it. So this is the tradition that non-duality comes from, and it starts with the basic assumption that you're divided. And of course, any of us that are in these conquering cultures are divided. We start out divided. So that's why Enlightenment teachings, non-duality, are about how do you step out of that division back into a place of oneness. And what these traditions have forgotten is that that was the natural human experience for hundreds of thousands of years. So the division is like so deep in our minds that we started thinking, they started thinking, we started thinking that anyone who attained this undivided state was some sort of special person. But if you actually listen to them, like I was just listening to a nice talk by Nisargadatta, and the very first thing he starts out saying is just, I'm an ordinary guy. I'm just a regular person who has, stepped beyond this division. But yet we turn these people into the insane levels of perfection that we assign to our enlightened gurus of the past particularly are just insane. It's one of the reasons that we do not like living gurus, because they never live up to this expectation. So we're going to spend a week. This is a series on non-duality and native wisdom and how they intersect. And, it's a little bit like how they can help each other. Native wisdom does not need to be helped. You and society, and the society that we live in, needs to be helped in order to step back into this state where we can see the native wisdom and native life as the real thing, where we can really understand what we're being told by the native wisdom keepers. So it's really important to understand history in order to be able to get there. And it's really important to understand how history was written, how it was taught to us, and look at ways that it is now being rewritten by people that are looking at it really seriously and deeply, and how it's being rewritten in a way that shows us a totally different story of what it means to be a human being than the one most of us grew up with. So try to follow this whole thread of native wisdom and non-duality from the beginning to the end. I'm putting it on my website, Ma Primzareen, so you can see it in order, because nothing in YouTube ever comes out in order. So it's really good to see it. Also on my website, I have it all written out, so it's a little more accessible. And I, edited out some of the really dumb stuff I say, like I'll probably edit this little bit out. See you in the next video.